What's shaking, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more Flying Raccoon Suit. We're continuing through their 2023 album Moonflower. Shout out to all the members of the band, as well as people who've directed their videos, and a number of folks who are associated with them who've commented on some of the earlier reactions. But the next tune on the album is Hurricane. It's a single word title. Those are tough to get a read on. Of course, the literal meaning of hurricane, a large cyclonic storm, is quite clear, but I would expect this to function as a metaphor. Even if there is like a visual reference, I would expect it to function on multiple levels and, relate to a psycho-emotional hurricane or an interpersonal hurricane or a hurricane in regard to someone's life trajectory where they feel like they're at the center of a lot of chaotic forces, or maybe even swept up in the gravity or inertia of a hurricane. So yes, let's see what it is in practice. This is Flying Raccoon Suit from their 2023 album Moonflower, the lovely blue vinyl, and the track is Hurricane. Make sure, okay.
Summer's bringing that cold feeling, constant ringing, heaven clouds something of summer. Now decaying, let's get it started. Can't take the first swing, lost my head, a pinky promise. It's been a hard week.
I love it. So first of all, definitely a sonic creation of the experience of being in a chaotic and destructive hurricane. And I think there's some visual references and, like the sun and like talking about a hurricane specifically. But again, I do think it's about life trajectory, the feeling of, your life being a bit chaotic and difficult. And indeed, there's like reference to multiple timelines, like it's been a rough week, it's been a rough year, it's been a rough life, and maybe the suggestion that, it seems like you can never get out of the hurricane. And then the line near the end, which, similarly, like a locomotive running out of steam, so one that's, not being as rapid or with as much energy, propelling down the tracks, but in fact slowing down and maybe, ceasing to make progress at all. So I wonder, again, if there's some multiple similes / metaphors at play here. I will look at the lyrics in a moment. But yeah, I enjoy the sort of stop-start feeling. Again, it started and it was a bit, slower and atmospheric, and then it, gets very intense, goes back to being slower and atmospheric, another little intense stab, and then suddenly it's, a grooving, energetic ska tune, skanking around, and then it goes full maelstrom, dissonant and intense and almost uncomfortable, lots of tension, and then it kind of goes back through that same sequence again. So I enjoyed the dynamic nature of the tune compositionally. Let me grab my phone because my eyes are old, and then I shall look at the lyrics proper on the inner sleeve here. If I can get the inner sleeve to come out. Okay, so where are you, Hurricane? Okay, so summer's bringing that cold feeling, interesting, constant ringing, heads in the clouds, something else amiss, now decaying. I did hear that line, I forgot to mention that. Now decaying, let's get it started, can't take the first swing. I also saw that or heard that, and as someone who just watched a baseball game earlier, that's where my brain went with that. But yeah, okay, can't take a swing, lost my hand in a pinky promise, that's interesting. It's been a hard week, can't tell if this is more or less sleep. I get bricks tied to my feet, can't tell if this is more or less sleep. And I have lost all meaning, is there doubt? Summer's bringing hurricanes, okay. It's been a hard year, can't tell if this is more or less sleep. I got bricks tied to my feet, can't tell if this is more or less sleep. And it's been a hard life. Can't tell if this is more or less sleep. I got bricks tied to my feet, can't tell if this is more or less sleep. And a locomotive losing steam, begin and ending. I was thinking like, the, decaying, and then what was the line after decaying? Let's get it started. That had a sort of like, cycles of coming to an end, coming back to life, or, starting something new. The, birth and death, and, things rising from their own ashes and so on. So that line right there seems to fit into that. Beginning and ending, lost in the pages of a storybook dream. I did hear the phrase storybook dream, but I didn't hear the first part of that line. It's been a hard year, can't tell if there's more or less sleep. I got bricks tied to my feet. Yeah, it repeats, the chorus and goes back to it's been a hard week. So yeah, I mean, I think, I think it's up for interpretation, but certainly I get a suggestion of cycles of movement and progress and things decaying or breaking down. And, the hard week, hard year, hard life suggests that these cycles exist on a micro and a macro level. And there may be times where, summer, which maybe not as much as spring, but summer, it's, there are, like there's growth, there's, things are bright and green and, they're warmest and so on. But to say summer brings a cold feeling and summer's bringing a hurricane, I think there's a suggestion of, in the end, it's just the first part of the next part of the cycle. So, yeah, it seems like it's maybe talking about maybe mortality taken on an even higher level, but certainly, again, the idea that the end of one struggle can be the beginning of something new, but that new thing will eventually decay and will come to an end, and there seems to be a suggestion of the, circular, cyclonic nature of experience, again, maybe using a weather event like a hurricane to express that point metaphorically. So either way, another cool tune. My favorite parts in the song sonically were those, faster skankin' ska parts, which again just goes to my own history of enjoying ska and ska punk. So once again, another cool tune from the album. We're nearing the end of side 1. Yeah, we got 2 more to go. Take This Witch With You, and then Witch's Streak. So we'll look forward to those, and then we'll be on to side 2, which, fittingly for me in my mid-40s, starts with Long in the Tooth. So yeah, let me know what you think, and we'll see you for the next one. Peace.